Welcome to my podcast. So, I'm Julian, and this is Sapphic Screens.
Sapphic Screens.
So, let's talk about how Filipino media fails, sometimes just barely succeeds, in portraying women who love women. Before we dive in, let's set the stage. So the Philippines has a complex relationship with LGBTQ plus identities. The gays, the queers. We're a country that elected its first transgender congresswoman, yet still hasn't passed the SOGI equality bill after 2 decades of pushing it through. We have pride marches drawing thousands in Manila, while small-town queers face daily persecution. This contradiction is perfectly reflected in our media landscape. Progressive indie films struggle for distribution while primetime TV serves queer caricatures to millions nightly. Our films and TV shows don't just entertain us, they shape public opinion, influence policy debates, and tell queer Filipinos whether they deserve happy endings or not. So when we critique media representation, we're really asking, whose stories get told, by whom, and to what end? Today we're examining these questions through 2 radically different portrayals of women who love women. Picture this. Catholic school in the provinces, 1994. 2 girls. Billy, the rebellious new student with a guitar, sent to live with her strict aunt after being expelled from Manila, and Emma, the rule-following good girl with perfect grades and secret pregnancy. Their love story isn't just about grand gestures or violence, it's in the small moments. Fingers brushing over a shared cigarette, whispered secrets under mosquito nets, stolen glances during mass. Director Samantha Lee doesn't fetishize their intimacy. She lets it breathe. No male gaze, no tragic ending, just 2 girls figuring out their feelings in a world that's not ready for them. What makes Billy and Emma radical is its normalcy. The conflict isn't primarily about being queer, it's about class, family, and the quiet suffocation of provincial life. Trust me, I know it's suffocating. The film doesn't sensationalize their relationship as some forbidden fruit. Instead, their queerness is treated as one facet of their complex identities. Take the scene where they first kiss. It happens after Emma reveals her pregnancy. Billy, well, she doesn't run away. In shock, she stays. She helps Emma study. The camera doesn't linger on their bodies, it captures their faces, their vulnerability. In a media landscape where lesbian kisses are usually filmed like soft porn, that scene felt so calming. When Emma's mother finds out, she doesn't disown her. She cries, then asks, "Ano sasabihin ng mga kapitbahay? What will the neighbors say?" That line, that's the real Filipino queer experience. It's not about hellfire, not about that dying type stuff. It's about gossip, shame, and the crushing weight of what if. The real antagonist isn't homophobia as an abstract concept. It's the suffocating Catholic guilt, the provincial small-mindedness, the generational trauma passed down from mother to daughter. Anyways, so films like this matter because they show queer Filipinas they deserve mundane love stories. No dying, no male fantasies, just girls in uniforms, falling in love under the same oppressive systems we navigate daily. When Emma chooses to keep her baby and Billy chooses to stay, they're rejecting the narrative that queer women must sacrifice motherhood, that alternative families can't exist in provincial settings. It's worth noting that director Samantha Lee actually herself is a lesbian filmmaker. So this isn't just about representation on screen, it's representation behind the camera. The film's authenticity stems from lived experience, not imagination or research. None of that male gaze bullshit. It's real, raw. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, the film is set in 1994, right when the Philippines was experiencing rapid globalization after the Marcos era. That setting isn't accidental. It reflects a time when Filipino identity was in flux, when Western ideas about sexuality were beginning to infiltrate our cultural consciousness. By placing a queer love story in this transitional period, Lee suggests that Filipino queerness isn't a Western import. It was always there. It's always been here, waiting for space to breathe. Notice how the film incorporates distinctly Filipino elements. The mango trees where they meet, the Catholic school uniforms that become sites of rebellion, the folk songs Billy plays on a guitar. This isn't a universal queer narrative transplanted onto Filipino soil. It's a story that could only happen here, with our particular cultural tensions. Now let's talk about My Husband's Lover. This 2013 GMA Network blockbuster was hailed as groundbreaking, kuno. Okay, for featuring a gay affair between Vincent, the closeted husband, and Eric, his former boyfriend. To be fair, the show deserves some credit for bringing queer relationships to primetime television, when most networks wouldn't even touch the topic. But its lone Sapphic character, Elaine, was a walking stereotype that reveals how differently Filipino media treats gay men versus lesbian women. Elaine is a quintessential predatory lesbian, a rich, manipulative seductress who blackmails the heroine, Lali, into sleeping with her. She's introduced 40 episodes in, purely as a plot device to create more drama. Every scene oozes male gaze. Lingering shots of her red nails tracing a woman's thigh, heavy breathing, zero emotional depth. Her dialogues consist of almost entirely of sexual innuendos and threats. What the Let's break down the infamous seduction scene. So Lally visits Elaine's mansion to discuss business. Elaine offers her wine, then abruptly confesses her attraction. The camera voyeuristically pans up to Lally's legs as Elaine approaches. The lighting shifts to red. Oh my god. Sultry saxophone plays. Compare this to how Vincent and Eric's intimate scenes were filmed. With emotional conversation first, gentle lighting, romantic music. The disparity couldn't be more obvious, and her fate killed off unceremoniously in a car accident 8 episodes later, after Lally forcefully rejects her advances. This reinforces that queer women in Filipino media are either villains or dead, often both anyways. So meanwhile, the gay male characters get complex backgrounds, character development, and ambiguous but hopeful endings. And what does Elaine get? She's 6 feet under the ground. So this trope isn't just lazy writing, it's dangerous in the Filipino context. The only women-loving women character on primetime TV is a predator. It fuels real-world homophobia. Think about it. How many Filipinos still believe lesbians are just confused or a threat to straight women? Media like this plants those seeds. The show's treatment of Elaine also reveals a deeper cultural discomfort with female sexual agency. In Philippine society, women who overtly express sexual desire, especially for other women, are coded as dangerous and unsafe. Okay. So they challenge the Madonna whore dichotomy that Filipino Catholicism has embedded in our culture for centuries. Oh my god, this is crazy. So it's also worth noting that despite its progressive reputation, the show ultimately reinforces traditional family structures. Vincent returns to his wife. Diva? Abandoning Eric. The nuclear family is preserved. The queer threat is contained. Elaine represents untamed female sexuality, must die for this conservative resolution to work. The gays they have to eliminate the gays first for the goddamn people to be happy. And let's not forget, this aired in 2013, exactly when the Sochi bill debates were heating up in Congress. The bill had been introduced in 2000 but gained significant momentum between 2010 to 2015. So stories like Elaine's gave conservatives ammunition. See? They're like, see, queer people are immoral predators. Representation isn't neutral, it's political. Like a So GMA Network positions itself as a progressive force in Filipino media. No, but its commercial interests often undermine genuine representation. The show was clearly designed to generate controversy and ratings, not to humanize queer Filipinos. This exploitation masked as representation is particularly harmful when LGBTQ+ people have so few images of themselves in mainstream media. We also need to consider who was in the writer's room. The show's head writer, Suzette Doctolero, is known for sensationalist storylines. While including gay characters was bold, they did it wrong. The writing team lacked authentic Sapphic voices. This resulted in male fantasies of lesbian sexuality rather than nuanced representation. So in order to understand these contrasting portrayals, we need to examine the Filipino film and television industry structure. Indie cinema versus network television isn't just an artistic divide, it's an economic and political one. Indie films like Billy and Emma operate outside the studio system, allowing directors more creative freedom. But this freedom comes at a cost. Limited distribution, smaller audiences, and less cultural impact. Samantha Lee had to fight for every peso of funding, ultimately securing international grants rather than local backing. The film premiered at international festivals, but struggled to secure commercial screenings in the Philippines, even in Metro Manila. This is true because if I haven't proactively tried to look for this movie, I wouldn't have known. It's so hard to find relatively good representation of Sapphic media here in the Philippines. Unless it goes viral on TikTok, or like if you're an avid Letterboxd user like me, you're gonna have a hard time finding it. So meanwhile, GMA Network, which produced My Husband's Lover, is a commercial giant with millions of viewers across the Philippines and the diaspora. I think I pronounced that wrong. So their primary goal is ratings, which translates to advertising revenue. Melodrama sells. We get it. The thing with Yaya Dub and Alden, what's it called? I don't know, but my grandmother loved it so much. Stereotype sell. Like I said, Yaya Dub and Alden. I don't remember their thing, but complexity and authenticity, not so much. It was so cliche, by the way. The distribution problem is crucial. Really crucial, actually. Well, urban Filipinos in Manila might have access to indie films through limited theatrical releases, or film festivals. Most provincial audiences, where homophobia is often strongest, consume exclusively network television and mainstream media. This is so true. This creates a vicious cycle. The people who most need to see authentic queer stories are stuck with harmful stereotypes which reinforces their prejudices. We also can't ignore censorship. The MTRCB, or the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, still policies morality in media. In 2013, My Husband's Lover received warnings about excessive intimate scenes between the male leads. Okay, I smell a little homophobia right there. I smell a little bias challenge. Imagine the increased scrutiny a show featuring authentic sapphic relationships would face. This institutional pressure pushes networks towards sensationalism rather than realism. So where do we go from here? First, support indie filmmakers like Samantha Lee, who hired queer writers and listen to real women-loving women experiences. Buy tickets, attend screenings, share their work on social media. Economic support translates to more queer stories getting made, guys. So the second, demand that mainstream networks stop reducing us to plot twists. This means calling out problematic portrayals in social media, writing the networks, and supporting advertisers who back authentic representation. Networks follow money. If they see that genuine queer stories attract viewers and sponsors, they'll produce more of them. Third, we need structural changes. The SOGI Equality Bill would provide legal protections against discrimination, including harmful media portrayals. Support organizations like Babay Lanes and Metro Manila Pride that lobby for these legislative changes. Fourth, push for diversity behind the camera. We need queer women in writers' rooms, directing chairs, and executive positions. The authentic gaze matters as much as what's being shown. And most importantly, guys, talk back challenge! Tweet about tropes, dissect films with friends, write your own stories, create your own content. In the age of digital media, we don't need to wait for networks to tell our stories. Start YouTube channels, podcasts, blogs. You do it yourself type of shit, bro. Change starts when we refuse to be silent. So if you feel like, hey, that media platform's not doing me right, so I'm gonna do it myself. Remember, representation has real consequences. When Senator Manny Pacquiao compared LGBTQ plus people to animals in 2016, that son of a gun, he cited media portrayals as part of his evidence. When young queer Filipinos see themselves as either villains or victims on screen, it shapes their self-perception. This isn't just about entertainment. It's about dignity, policy, and lived experience. I'm so hyped up about this. To every queer Filipino listening, your love is not tragedy. It's not a fetish or a cautionary tale. You're not just a filler in a movie for some extra plot. It's as ordinary and extraordinary as you are. You deserve to see yourself in stories that don't end in your death or redemption. Stories where you can be flawed without being villainous, sexual without being predatory, different without being othered. The landscape is slowly changing. Besides Samantha Lee, directors like Sigrid Andrea Bernardo and Ice Idanan are creating more nuanced portrayals of Sapphic Filipinas. Web series like Hanging Out and Fluid are bypassing traditional gatekeepers. Stories are being told, bit by bit, frame by frame. Let's keep demanding narratives that prove our humanity, not just for ourselves, but for the next generation of queer Filipinos who deserve better than what we had growing up. Vote me for president. I'm kidding. Once again, this is Jillian, reminding you that media isn't just what we consume, it's what consumes us. Choose wisely. Vote wisely. Please vote wisely, please.
Sapphic Screens.